This is Saxon Advanced Math, lesson 84.b. This is sketching sinusoids. I'm going to jump into this, and I started pre-writing this one, but I realized that you probably need to see me write it to be able to know how to write it, because that's what the lesson's about. So let's go ahead and go through this step by step, and we'll start where I left off here. Sketch y equals -10 plus 2 sine 3 x minus 45. Now we need to identify a couple of things. If you remember, this is the center, right? And I already know that this is the amplitude, or the amount of amplitude. This right here is going to be my number of the period, right? And then I've got my phase angle. So I need to go through and start labeling each one of these efficiently and easily. Now, many of us struggle with sketching these. We've already identified them from the sketch, but now they want us to actually graph them. So what I did is I just started with a sine, right? All sinusoids are going to look pretty similar. There's the sine. Then I start to go ahead and label things. So I know the center line is going to cross through the center. That's really D. And I realize that that center line is at -10. So I can label this at -10, which means that if I said, here it is, this right here, the center line, this is -10. Now I know that I'm going to put it on a graph that looks like this, right? And with the x and y coordinates, I just don't know where that graph is going to be. So when I look at that, I'm going to say I'm going to slide this over, but where do I slide that to? And I know that it has a phase angle of 45 and a period of with a number out 3, so I need to know what that is. 360 divided by 3 gives me my 120. Now this is where I'm going to start paying attention to this, and I'm going to look at it and realize that if that's 45, that's one full cycle, right? So if that's 45, what's the next full cycle? Well, it's going to be 165. Okay? Well, where did I get 165? 45 plus the 120 for one complete cycle. It's one complete period, right? It is going to be 120 degrees. So it's going to look like this. Well, now I realize that half of the 120 is 60. So if that's half of that, it's going to make this a 105, right? If that's a 105, this is a -15. And now I've got some form or some shape to this. But we want to be able to go ahead and say, where am I going to put that center line? Well, remember that if I shifted my 45, well, if this was here exactly, I'm going to shift it over here, right? And I'm going to put this where it's going to be. So how am I going to get that to shift over? And that's going to be by simply putting that vertical line then to right about there. Okay, and that's probably not perfect, but that's where that's going to end up. And now there's one thing that is not perfect with this method of graphing, and that is this number here. Now I can label it correctly and say if that's 10 and it's going up to, what's the maximum this is? Well, we're going to go up to by up to, so -8, and that's going to go down 2 more, so this is going to be -12. But it's how that graph's shape on how this is going to go, how far up and down on this is actually, I've changed the scale instead of changing the graph. So if I took this whole thing and redrew it and graphed it out correctly, the best way to do it, if you will, I would go ahead and say this is how far that scale is, and I would stretch this graph in correlation to that. But this is good enough for a sketch, and this is the easiest way to do it. So to go through the steps again, the very first thing I do is I realize that all sinusoidal graphs look virtually the same with the exception of the amplitude, right? So I go ahead and put that up there, and then I just adjust my scale to fit it by putting in there each one of the different terms that we've already known. And you've seen me do this on the board, I'm sure, before when in classroom when we're actually working these we just didn't actually talk about how you're supposed to sketch it as a student. This is the easiest way to do it.